Welcome to Radio KAL, the Superman podcast brought to you by SupermanHomepage.com, the number one Superman fan site in the world. This is show number 142, which will be released on October 26, 2016. My name is Steve Eunice, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friend Scotty V. Hey, Scotty.
Hello, Steve, and hello, everyone who's watching. We're just doing our podcast. We've done how many of these now, Steve? We're on number 142, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and we should say at the top that we are proudly sponsored by our good friend Patrick O'Neill. Now, as Scotty says to those watching as well as listening, we tried to do a live broadcast of the first part of this podcast on younow.com. That's younow.com, just for something different. So we might add that link to the podcast as well, so people can check it out after the fact. But we, as always, we discuss many topics here on the Superman homepage. We usually start with movie news, so we'll start with what's happening with the upcoming Justice League movie. As we know, it will be released in November 2017. We start off with the knowledge that there was some movement in Yorkville, Illinois, which was the on-set location for the Kent farmhouse. Now, we now know that the Kent farmhouse, there was some movement there, but what has happened was that they knocked down the farmhouse, which was purposely built for the film on a location where there was a farm and some other stuff there, but they built a farmhouse specifically for the movie, and that has now since been knocked down. So we don't know yet if that's for the film, like, as in the building gets destroyed during the movie, or whether or not that's because they no longer need it, and so the lease or whatever has run out and they've decided to knock it down.
You know, we sort of had the Kent house get kind of demolished in Man of Steel, and then we had no particular explanation as to why it was standing again, and everything seemed to be fine in Batman v Superman. So I guess we can kind of ascertain that during the time period between the two movies, either Clark rebuilt it or they had it rebuilt. So now, is it really time to see the Kent homestead be destroyed again? Or, as you say, is this just being taken down because they're finished with it for filming? It'll be interesting to see in the movie. Every time we see little things like this, all kinds of rumors run rampant, and we hope things, or we are looking forward to possibly seeing things, or what reason would it have for being destroyed in the movie, and we'll have to see what happens as we move forward. But I always like to see movement on a movie that we're all looking forward to, and of course, this being the Superman homepage, we're excited about Wonder Woman, but we're more excited about movies like Justice League because Superman will be in them, and we know that Superman will be in it because Zack Snyder has released a behind-the-scenes Justice League video where we do get to see Superman. He's in he's in his normal blue and red suit, sans cape, and he's laughing and talking, and they seem to be getting instructions and doing certain things for the filming, while at the same time there also seems to be a lot of gags going on. And then someone also told me that they saw a shirtless Superman at another point in this behind-the-scenes video.
Yeah, that's right. To celebrate the wrap-up of filming for Justice League in both London and Iceland, where they went to for a little bit after they finished filming in London, Zack Snyder did release a video with a lot of behind-the-scenes footage from filming of the movie. As you say, there's a lot of Batman, a lot of Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Cyborg, The Flash are all, fairly prominent. But we do see two quick snippets of Henry Cavill. One in the Superman costume where he's doing a bit of like a wiggles thing with the pointing of his fingers. And another one where he's just shirtless. I think in the background behind him is either Ezra Miller or Cyborg. But we do see him twice in that video. And it's pretty cool just to seeing, there's an elevator scene where the actors are all coming down in their suits. The Justice League Superman isn't in that particular scene. And so because there is so very little Superman, I guess we speculate as to just how much Superman will be in the movie in total. There is some rumor and speculation out there that he will only be in the last third of the movie. Obviously, we need to get him to return from the dead before any of that can happen.
Yeah, it was disheartening when I saw this video, and I made a bit of a comment that, of course, lots of people had to contradict me. No, he's in the video. We've seen him several times. And when I said he's barely present, what I mean is he's barely present. The idea that you see Batman countless times, you see Wonder Woman countless times, you see Aquaman, you see The Flash. Actually, all of their actor personas, the people who are playing them, are seen many times throughout because it's a behind-the-scenes video. And then twice, very quickly, 2 snippets, at least on my notice, you see Henry Cavill as Superman twice go by and pretty much be gone in the blink of an eye. So when you see that sort of a thing, you are, at least for me, you are kind of concerned that Superman's not going to be in the movie. And, of course, we did read some, I don't know if they're rumors or if they've been substantiated or if it's official now, that Superman will have a very important role, but very minor, to where he shows up, as you say, toward the last third of the movie.
Yeah. So we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. It's not much is known, and we're still, here we are just at the end of October. We're still a year away from the release of Justice League, so if they have finished wrapping the filming completely, we know they finished wrapping in London and Iceland, and I haven't heard of them filming anywhere else, so I guess that might be the wrap on the production side of things completely. They now move into post-production, where they will be doing all the special effects and the editing and the music scoring and all that kind of stuff, so there's a lot of water to go under the bridge between now and the release of the film in November 2017. So we look forward to any more details that they can release for that. But I did get a bit of a scoop myself for this movie, which I was quite happy about and surprised, actually. I attended a screening of the movie Superman 2 here in Australia. There was a special screening at the Hayden Orpheum Theatre, and Mark McClure and Sarah Douglas. Mark McClure, who obviously played Jimmy Olsen in those Christopher Reeve Superman films, and Sarah Douglas, who played Ursa, the female Kryptonian villain, were both in attendance for a Q&A and the screening of that film. And during the Q&A, I managed to get a question to Mark and Sarah, asking them if either of them had been asked or approached to be in any upcoming Superman films, or indeed the current Supergirl TV series. And Mark McClure revealed that not only does he have a recurring role in that upcoming TV series called Powerless, where it's about a insurance agency that exists within the DC universe and has to deal with all the destruction and I guess what do you call it, legal problems that happen with superheroes fighting within a real world. It's supposed to be a comedy. That he also revealed that he will be in a film to be released at the end of 2017. Hint, hint. Which everybody started clapping and applauding in the audience, because they obviously knew that he was discussing or referencing the upcoming Justice League movie. So the idea of cameo appearances of actors from past iterations of the Superman world appearing in newer versions continues, with Mark McClure supposedly having a cameo role, I guess, in Justice League.
Well, this is very exciting for a couple of reasons. Obviously, Mark McClure has been a big part of the Superman in alternate forms of media, being Jimmy Olsen and being on the Smallville show, and moving forward now, he was in the Supergirl movie. The thought behind these, a lot of times these Zack Snyder movies and the presentations of these movies, much darker, much more serious, much more realistic, much more gritty. The idea that a lot of people don't like them because they're not as happy, or they're not as smiley, or they're not as uplifting. And then the thought that it didn't seem like they wanted to be at all connected with things that had come before. In other words, people have asked many times, why write a whole new score that couldn't possibly live up to the John Williams score? Why not have connections? Why not have the Crystal Fortress? Why not have the crystal shards that run the computer system and give Superman all the information? Why not have Otis and goofy Lex Luthor? And why not kind of connect all of the things? And why not continue it? And the thought, I believe, was at the beginning, we want to be our own thing. We're a Superman for a new generation. We're a modern Superman, and we don't want to measure up or be compared to or try and top those. We just want to be new in our own thing. Those are classics. People love them. But this kind of being a surprise that someone connected to, they do it on TV a lot. They did it many times in Smallville. You see these crossovers with Lynda Carter playing the president on tonight's episode of Supergirl. They do this with other DC shows and movies, actors coming in and being in new shows and movies. And it's kind of neat to see that, there's been all this talk about moving forward, they're going to make these movies lighter and happier and more positive and more fun. Starting with Suicide Squad, I guess. That's a little disturbing, but perhaps this is another move in that direction to try and, show the tongue-in-cheek side or the lighter side. Stan Lee appearing in all the Marvel movies and all the Marvel projects. Not that Mark McClure is going to be Stan Lee in the DC world, but the idea that he's going to appear likely in Justice League, it sounds like, is I think a step closer to the middle, maybe, that maybe people weren't expecting.
Yeah, so we'll wait and see what happens there with Mark McClure and his role in the upcoming Justice League movie. But that's where things are at with the Justice League film, so that's pretty cool. We don't know much more at this stage. We'll just have to wait and see as the months go by, as we get more information and more probably behind-the-scenes stuff from Zack Snyder in relation to the Justice League movie. So, let's move on to TV talk. And this past month, we have seen, to date, 3 episodes of the Supergirl TV series. As you say, we're recording this on the Monday night there for the US, where Supergirl episode 3 of season 2, Welcome to Earth, has aired. Neither you or I have been able to sit and watch that at this point of the recording this podcast, but we did see 2 episodes for the premiere, a 2-part episode, if you like, for the premiere of season 2 on the CW now for Supergirl, and we saw Superman starring Tyler Hoechlin as the Man of Steel, Tyler Hoechlin as the Man of Steel. First off, we had our thoughts on the costume and what we thought of Tyler Hoechlin and some of the things he'd been saying and the interviews and what have you. But now that you've seen him in action in those 2 episodes for the Supergirl TV series, what's your opinion of the man in the costume?
Well, here's the thing, and this might come as a surprise to many people because I have kind of been, I wouldn't say one of his detractors, but as you say, some of the things that were said, some of the suppositions made by other people about the things that they have seen. Before we saw him in action, there was a lot of shots of him just smiling, just happy, just running down an alley with a big goofy grin on his face. And some of those appeared in the show. Others seem to have been shots of him backstage or behind the scenes, having fun. And as an actor, as someone who has been granted the, to me, honorable and extremely legendary role of Superman, should be happy, should be running around feeling like he's on top of the world, feeling like $1,000,000. So I'm glad to see and to hear Tyler Hoechlin happy to have the role, happy to be a part of it. Far too often you hear people talk about how they don't want to be connected to a character they've played, or that was just one thing they did and they really want to be remembered for other things. obviously he is only doing this right now, so we don't know what he's going to feel like if 20 years from now people ask him how it felt to play Superman. A lot of times that's when the actors kind of get a little bitter or say, what, how come I only have to be remembered for an action movie I did or a superhero or whatever. But at this time, he clearly seems happy in the role. He seems pleased with himself back, as I say, behind the scenes in those shots. We see shots of him from the show. Definitely a lot brighter of a show, a lot lighter of a show, and I don't plan to rhyme every phrase I'm going to put together, but I do think that it's a much different feel. And so what's happening and what gets me is not that whether Tyler Hoechlin was good or not. I think he is and was very good in what they gave him. I like the second episode much more than the first. The first fell a little flat for me. I think maybe that's because there was a lot of waiting for it. There was a lot of anticipation. There was a lot of what's it going to be like. And then when it comes, it's kind of like, oh, okay. But I also thought they tried really hard in that first episode to kind of make it very much a callback to the Donner films, whereas in the second episode, a lot of those jokes weren't there. They didn't do a lot of those callbacks, and they really... Yeah. And they really concentrated more, I thought, on the story and the dynamic between the two characters, Kara and Superman. And so I liked it much better. And I also, while it's cute, the winks and the cheesy smiles, for me, don't really work. And I think why is because, they're dealing with life and death. They're dealing with explosions. They're dealing with the possible death of people. And maiming of people. So I don't know that, when I'm in a fire and I need someone to rescue me, I don't know that I want them coming in, hey, I'm here, and like winking and making jokes and screaming for Miss Tessmacher and things like that. So that's why I think I was really pleased when Man of Steel came along, and for me it was the first serious take of Superman that you could really take seriously, a guy who was a tough hero who did what needed to be done, but also was taking on some weighty issues. And on Supergirl, the weighty issues kind of come up, but they go away just as quickly for a goofy joke or Cat coming in and being snarky with people or Snapper Carr being an old bald guy who's yelling at everyone or whatever. And that makes it a lot more fun and maybe a lot more suitable for families to watch with their kids. Here we have the little armored suit that Wynn puts together. And the other thing they don't do in the show is really explain how anything happens. Wynn had a few minutes, and he put together a magical suit that, by only being over the S-shield, somehow protects Superman and Supergirl from kryptonite radiation, which didn't really seem to hurt them anyway until he shot them with a beam in the Metallo episode, where I'm watching it, I'm going, when he exposes it and they're 2 feet from him, shouldn't they be weak already? But that didn't seem to be a problem. So it seems like somehow their weakness emanates through the S shield on their chest. So now that Wynn made this little plastic shield for them, they can fight Metallo without being affected by the kryptonite. A cool concept.
Aim for his feet.
Right, anything, wherever. And also, if the emanation from the kryptonite is what hurts you, that's going to hit you anyway. But that didn't seem to be a problem even before they put that on. So I guess they were kind of going for something different there. And because they don't take it too seriously, and a lot of people like that, they don't really care to explain how Wynn could make this or where it came from or where he got the idea from or why suddenly they know how to shield people from kryptonite. They just do it. And a lot of people I have heard say, I really get a comic book vibe because in comics they don't really explain anything. Things just happen and you just accept them because it's a fantasy world and it's about comics. I don't feel that is always the case in comics. It may have been in the Silver Age. People could float upside down for a whole book or whatever and no one would ever say why, or it just happened, but I don't think they do that in the modern age as much anymore. But it seems like a lot of fans do like the idea of it just being fantasy filled and fun and anything can happen and we don't really need to explain it.
I enjoyed the first 2 episodes and I enjoyed Tyler Hoechlin's performance as Superman. I thought it fit exactly where it needs to fit within the show, within the context of the show, within the vibe and the overall tone of the show. I think he and Melissa Benoist really had great chemistry with each other. Seemed to have a lot of fun being around each other. I liked the way that Superman was approachable, was down to earth, but still was revered by other people when he came into a room or when he landed in the DEO. Everybody was like, "Oh, it's Superman," kind of thing. But he didn't lap that up. It was just like, he went around and talked to him and said hello to him, and it was very personable. So I enjoyed that performance. I liked his Clark Kent. I thought his Clark Kent was great. Didn't play up the whole bumbling, stumbling thing too much. He's got some of that is there, but it's not as prominent or as down your throat, in your face as maybe the Christopher Reeve version was. He was also had I think a lot of the George Reeves type of feel to his Clark Kent, especially when he's doing the reporting, and asking questions and asking the tough questions. So he was confident, and I enjoyed that, and I thought Tyler did a great role, a great job with the role, and I'd like to see him return in some capacity further down this second season. Yes, it's Supergirl's show, so we need to allow her to be the star of her show, but I enjoyed the fact that he was able to come on and be a part of it and stuck around for a while. We saw the Daily Planet. We heard from Perry White, heard from Lois Lane. We got a lot of different little snippets in there from the Superman lore that I thought were injected really nicely.
Now, Mike Breen in our chat room, and I should mention to the people listening on Wednesday that we're doing a little test on YouNow. That's younow.com. It's a live video channel where the two of us are side by side and people can see us, and we're recording as we speak to whoever comes in and is watching. And Mike just mentioned Superman confidence, as you do, and that he just goes right at everybody, and he doesn't seem to be uncomfortable or unsure or not ready at any point. And I think it's fair, since everyone likes to make the comparison, and a lot of the memes I'm seeing and a lot of the remarks I get are that finally we're getting the Superman we deserve, the Superman we've wanted, 2 episodes, that something Cavill couldn't do in 2 movies. And I don't really think it's Cavill versus Hecklin in terms of who did it better, because they were the actor that did it better, but more so that some people like the writing of one better than another. And I think also it's worth noting that the Superman in this series, has been said many times, has been in operation for well over 12 years. And so he should be confident, and he should really know what his place is on Earth. And people should feel that way toward him in a room. Whereas in the Snyder universe, we're getting a situation where people are still afraid, and people still don't know what to expect, and people still don't understand exactly what is going on. And obviously on the Supergirl show, nothing has really had great impact that has happened. It's a one-off and the episode's over. And in that series, things that happen in each movie are carrying over. So the characters in those movies then develop certain attitudes and certain feelings toward those events that have happened. Whereas on TV, especially episodic superhero shows, you'll notice Lana in the Smallville series get thrown against a wall and have a big giant gash in her head, and the very next week, no one remembers the psychological as well as physical trauma that Lana goes through every minute, and they go in comas and they're knocked unconscious, and they have over and over again all these horrible injuries, and they are still the same person in the next episode, and everything is fine. TV often works that way, unless you're on a really serious, extremely painstakingly written, drawn-out show like Breaking Bad or something, where they're taking it very seriously and they think out these plots from beginning to end, and they know where it's going over 5 years. With a Supergirl show, an Arrow, that kind of thing, usually it's one episode, and things wrap up and everybody's fine in the next episode, unless it's a 2-parter where it continues. So it's a different medium, and so you're going to get a different feel. And to their credit, they wanted to go for goofier, smiley, or campy, or happy, or Superman, because so many people were displeased with the way it was going on movie screens. So it makes sense from a business standpoint to have both sides. You've got some people who don't like one or the other, so they can go to the other. And then you've got people who kind of like both or whatever. And then you've got people who won't watch one of them. And so you have the other as an option.
Yeah, no, agreed. So as we said, the 3rd episode involved Lynda Carter as the President of the United States. Neither
Very
of you,
cool.
the two of us haven't been able to see or watch that episode yet, but it's great to see them bringing in another superhero cast member from a different TV show and repurposing them, and it's just great to see that kind of stuff. And in this episode, an attack is made on the president, and as hot button alien versus human rights issues heat up in National City, Supergirl and the DEO are assigned to protect the president and bring the responsible party to justice. Alex teams up with Detective Maggie Sawyer, another character from the comics, to investigate the case while Kara searches for a recently escaped Mon-El, who she fears may be the alien behind the assault. So great to see all these characters in Season 2 coming to the fore. Maggie Sawyer, Mon-El, it's just great we've got Lena Luthor. So great to see them bringing in other characters into this world of the world of Supergirl, and I'm looking forward to seeing Lynda Carter's performance as the president, and it's just great to see her back on our screens.
I love it. I was so happy when I heard that she was being cast, and again, she was another one who appeared on Smallville and has been in and out of different DC projects over the years. People were kind of picketing or championing her to be in the Wonder Woman movie. It looks like she isn't, but who knows what surprises might lay down the road. This was a surprise when this came up, so I'm sure there will be more, and hopefully she'll make, like Tyler Hoechlin, hopefully she'll make some other appearances throughout the season or in future seasons.
Yeah, then we move on to episode 4, which will air on Monday, October 31st, and that episode is called Survivors. And the description for that episode reads, when Kara and Alex investigate the murder of an unregistered alien, the trail leads to an alien fight club run by Roulette, the ringmaster who commands aliens to fight in Mortal Kombat for the entertainment of rich humans. While trying to stop the fighting, Supergirl and Martian Manhunter find themselves up against a surprising opponent. Meanwhile, Hank is thrilled to have found another Martian and tries to get to know Magan better. Supergirl takes Mon-El under her wing and begins to train him.
Nice. She's suddenly training, and I know we're in season 2, but she was kind of iffy herself not too long ago.
Yeah, no, well, again, Magan's another character that's being brought in, Miss Martian, and I think this year, season 2 for Supergirl, season 1 was all about her trying to find her feet as Supergirl, where season 2 seems to be all about her trying to find her feet as Kara. She's kind of got the whole Supergirl thing down pat. She knows where she stands. She knows who she is. She's working with the DEO. Everything seems to be falling in line there, but her life as Kara is not necessarily falling into place. There's a lot of turmoil there. She's changed her job. She's no longer working under Cat Grant. She's now with Snapper Carr as an investigative reporter. She's, her relationship with James is ended, and they just decided to be friends. So there seems to be a lot there that is going on with her Kara personality. But as Supergirl, she seems to be more confident and is able now to take someone like Mon-El under her wing and try to train him. That seems kind of fitting.
Hey, you mentioned two characters that I couldn't really understand. There's kind of an outrage that Snapper Carr, this minor character from some cartoons, was brought in as this older, balding, gruff kind of almost Perry White type of guy is the comparison I've been hearing, and Snapper Carr has always been this young guy with flared up hair who's kind of got an attitude, but is brave in his own right, but a very different kind of a character that they're using as Snapper Carr on the Supergirl show, and yet I didn't really hear any outrage or any confusion when Makad Brooks was cast as Jimmy Olsen, who is normally this sheepish, skinny redhead with freckles, and we've got model-esque, kind of more impressive than Superman, James Olsen and Makad Brooks, and to me, it's exactly the same thing, but for some reason, and Jimmy, a much more well-known, important character, whereas Snapper's a one-off that maybe people have heard of and maybe people haven't. And for some reason, I've seen so many people saying, "Oh, since when is he bald? Since when is he old? Since when is he mean? Since this, that." And I just keep saying, well, I guess since Jimmy became this model who is more impressive to look at than Superman is. But for some reason, that doesn't seem to translate the same way to other people.
No, I do remember there being a bit of an uproar about Makad Brooks being cast as James Olsen or Jimmy Olsen. The skin color, the height, the look, the whole thing was an issue. And I think the same thing was with Perry White in Man of Steel. So Even Lois Lane in Man of Steel, Lois doesn't have her hair. And, so remember, it doesn't matter what they do. They're always changing things, and they're always upgrading things and making changes, and people have a bit of a problem because the person didn't step out of a comic book page. But look, Snapper Carr in Supergirl isn't the Snapper Carr from the comic books or from any other version that you've seen before. It maybe only be Snapper Carr in name alone. But it is what it is, and I don't think there will be too many people who watch Supergirl at the moment who would even know that Snapper Carr was a character from the comic books. So I don't think it's a major problem for people who are fans of the TV series. But for those who are comic book diehards, they go, "Oh, that's not Snapper Carr. He's not supposed to be like that." And so yeah, it is what it is, and I don't think it's a major issue at all.
Well, the other thing that's possible is the same kind of thing. Superman has confidence because he's been in operation for 12 or 15 years. Snapper Carr could have been the young Snapper Carr with hair 15 years ago when Superman first showed up, and now he's old.
Yeah.
And they made mention that Superman still looks the same age as Kara, or close to the same age, and saying that Kryptonians age slower, which we've heard before. But it did bring up an interesting thought to me, and I'm sure people have thought of this before, but the idea that that means everybody he's friends with, and of course Lois most importantly, will age while he stays. When as a guy who stays perpetually 25, do you say, okay, this woman who I do love and have always loved is now 80 and I'm still 25? When does that switch from? And I know you can make a parallel to Captain America coming to the future in the movie and meeting Peggy, who was in her hospital bed at the nursing home or whatever, super old, and they still loved each other, and then they were still star-crossed lovers, that kind of thing. But it does. I think when you say that kind of a thing to explain, and I brought this up when Tyler Hoechlin was cast, saying, why does he look so young? Shouldn't it be an older guy since he brought Kara when she was 12 or whatever? And people did say, well, Kryptonians age slower, so that'll probably be what it is. I was more hoping that it would be because of the Flashpoint universe, and I was hoping that this would be a different, less seasoned Superman, and Kara would get more of what she wanted, and that is to be the leader, the one who trains him, the one who protects him, rather than always needing him to save her, which was a sticking point in season 1, but they've seemingly completely forgotten about in season 2, where she's just happy to see him, glad to have him around, which was never even on her mind before. It was more like, I don't want anybody around, I can do this all by myself. And here, another opportunity, in my opinion, where the CW has forgotten their own internal continuity and forgotten the story that they put forth, that Kara was bitter toward the idea that Superman would ever help her, or that she would ever need help from anyone else. And that's just been forgotten in favor of the, hey, we're together, we're cousins, oh, it's so great having you here, let's fist bump.
Well,
forgetting that whole history.
I guess the fact that now, as I said, that she's more comfortable being Supergirl and she's established herself as Supergirl is the point, that now she can, she feels comfortable in getting help from other people and getting help from Superman and teaming up with her cousin, because now she has established herself as Supergirl. She's confident in her role as Supergirl, and therefore, where before maybe she felt like, no, I need to establish myself, I don't need your help, let me do what I need to do to become the hero that I know I can be, and then once I am established, once I am more confident, then I can, look at, teaming up with you or coming together with you. So I understand what you're saying, and that, that kind of has, a switch has been flicked, which is a bit jarring, but I guess it fits within the realms of the TV series personality that Kara has, in that she's always upbeat and she's always welcoming and she's always, accommodating of everybody. And so I guess it makes sense in the context of, as I said, she's now confident, she's Supergirl, she's established, she's happy to team up with Martian Manhunter, with her cousin Superman, whoever it might be, because that is settled now. She's now Supergirl, and she's confident in that role.
Well, that is definitely a possibility, but of course you're making that up yourself, because they didn't tell us that, and you're
Not
right.
in the
She
context
is always
of the show, but they have said that in interviews. They have said that season 1 was all about her establishing herself as
right.
Supergirl. Season 2 is about establishing herself as Kara. So I guess
I mean, her reason for being more ready to accept him and being just so happy he's there, and so much to the point that last episode she thought about moving with him because she didn't want him to leave. And it was so important to her to set up National City and have her have them trust her and have them know that she could handle it without help. And as I say, it's just sort of been swept under the rug. And I get what you're saying, that could be the reason why she suddenly is ready to accept that, and she is positive all the time and accepting of everybody. But this was the one area where it seemed like she had a psychological issue that was an interesting character beat that added some depth to just I'm smiling all the time and happy all the time and positive all the time, that they just sort of swept away and in favor of we really want to outdo Snyder and have a very happy, positive family reunion here where everyone's smiling and there's no complaints and there's no issues, which is their mission now, and that's great. But I think that there was a missed opportunity there to maybe address those feelings and maybe even have her apologize to both Jimmy, not Clark, because she didn't bring it up to him. But, she kind of went off on James when he saved her life, essentially, by bringing Superman in, and all that just seems gone now.
Yeah. We move on to the official description for Episode 5, Crossfire. And this episode says, Supergirl must beat a ruthless new gang who has been armed with dangerous new alien technology. When Cadmus sends a video to the DEO, the team realizes Cadmus is the one staffing the criminals for a secret mission. Meanwhile, Kara gets Mon-El a job as an intern at Catco. James makes an important decision, and Lena invites Kara to attend one of her fundraisers. So I guess the continuation of the whole Mon-El character thing is growth there. Continuation of Lena Luthor's relationship with Kara. It just sort of seems to be moving along nicely.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool, as you were saying before, the way they bring in these other characters. And people are, now with Lena in there, people are talking about, let's get Michael Rosenbaum to play Lex on the show. And what should they do for Lex? And I don't even know that there's a need for there to be Lex on the show. They have said he's in jail because of his land scheme in California, which, of course, chops my gears, but what are you going to do? The Donner is the way everybody, the way, the light, and the hope that they want to go to every time, and it just seems like a kind of a cop-out every time they say, oh, well, people didn't like what we did, let's go back to Donner. But that's what they're doing, and so why would Lex even come on the show? Lex is Superman's archenemy. Not that he hasn't bothered Batman and Wonder Woman and the entire Justice League, and not that he couldn't bother Supergirl, but she could. And same with Metallo. My problem with that was that, of course, Superman's been in operation for 10 or 12 or 15 years or however long it's been. I don't think it's ever been specifically said, but he's seasoned, he's confident, he knows what he's doing. He could never beat Reactron. It took Supergirl all of 10 minutes. And he is now being introduced to Metallo only through Supergirl. And again, Metallo is a Superman enemy. And people have sort of brought this up and complained about this before, that they have to keep taking the Cat Grants and the James Olsons and the Metallos and the Reactrons and the Bizarros and the Livewires and the Silver Banshees and introducing them as it's their first time, where and maybe that's a weak point in the comics, that Supergirl, in all the years she's been around since the late 40s or early 50s, she has not had her own rogues gallery. And they've even taken Cyborg Superman, which had a huge part in the Superman mythos and was a big part of his death and then the whole Doomsday arc. And now they use him as Kara's father, and for some reason he disguises himself as a cyborg version of Superman. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's really inexplicable. But they wanted to, again, kind of take him over and use him for Supergirl. And I think that could be a weakness just within the comic and the character itself, or it could just be that, again, like reaching back to the Donner franchise is kind of a crutch, that they have these characters and rather than try and create others that are just as interesting. They just keep bringing in, and that just, but when you establish the story that Superman's been around for 15 years, what's he been doing? None of his rogues gallery are facing him. They're only appearing against Kara 12 or 15 years later.
Yeah, it is tough to kind of kind of fit everything together and understand where all these villains are coming from and why they're facing Supergirl instead of Superman. But obviously they're borrowing from the DC universe as best they can to fit, the show that they're trying to make, and in doing so, they're creating characters and new characters, or retrofitting characters like they're doing with Guardian. It's actually going to be James Olsen. James Olsen is going to become the Guardian of National City. We've seen a photo of the metallic suit that he'll be wearing, the metal suit that supposedly Wynn designs for him. James, I guess, has kind of become a bit of a fifth wheel in the show with their relationship being resolved. He doesn't really have much to do anymore. He has taken over Kat's job as the head of Catco, but with Kara not being there anymore and being under the Snapper Carr's watch, James has kind of had nothing to do for the first few episodes of this series. So they've created, he's feeling like a bit of a sidekick or left out, and so he decides to become a vigilante himself and creates this Guardian persona.
I guess that's where it's going to come from. I don't think we've seen, as far as I haven't seen, a description of the episode where he does that or what the reason is or where it comes from. But this is, again, another issue that stems from casting such a capable-looking, strong-looking, muscly-looking, powerful-looking, modelly-looking Jimmy Olsen, because he can play a character. He can be a guy like Diggle is on Arrow, where he can put on this mask and kind of be Guardian, because and Jimmy Olsen throughout the years, mostly in the Silver Age and when comics were a little goofier, has taken on some Turtle Boy, and he has been some silly superhero type characters in different kind of strange stories or Mixus-Pidlick stories or things of that nature. But I don't know that he's ever been an actual vigilante, and it's kind of outside the bounds of who you think of that as that character. And again, this could be chalked up to, this is a different show. It's an alternate universe. It's perhaps a parallel universe where people do things differently than the way they do them in the universe you might remember, where Jimmy would never put on an armor suit and go around fighting crime, and also where it might not feel all that comfortable, and where as fans we might say it's really not his place or his need to do that. But of course, as you say, they probably want to use Mehcad Brooks, and they probably want to use this character James that they created. I don't know why they found it necessary to do away with the romance aspect of it once they made it such. I have heard fans complain that Jimmy Olsen and Kara were never romantically linked. I believe there were some stories in some instances where they may have been, but once they do that, I think it's odd to me that they just kind of dismissed it in one episode for no particular reason. She did fight for that through the whole first season, and then suddenly she just didn't want it anymore. And so now, as you say, I guess he's looking for something else to do, or maybe something to take his mind off the whole situation, or maybe he just feels there's still a place for him to be able to do something, even though in National City, with Supergirl and Superman coming every once in a while and Martian Manhunter being around, it seems like the handling of supervillains is pretty much under control. But James with a shield and a mask on is going to get out there to do his part. Yeah,
well, I guess he has been the man of action in the comic books with the Newsboy Legion and things like that in the past, but nothing like this, as you say. But there's a lot of threats coming in this upcoming season across the whole CW superhero shows, and they are going to be doing a crossover. We're thinking of it as a 4-way crossover, but it'll actually be it won't be within the Supergirl episodes, but Supergirl will be part of it. It's a 3-way crossover that will see the Dominators, this advanced alien race who will be invading Earth, and the three-way crossover will happen. Part 1 will be in The Flash, Part 2 will be in Arrow, and Part 3 will be in Legends of Tomorrow. But Supergirl will be part of all 3 episodes. She'll have, I think at the end of one of her episodes, we'll see the Flash come and recruit her to help them out in this invasion that's taking place in the Flarrow universe. I think they're calling it the Flash Arrow universe.
Flarrow.
Yeah, where the Dominators, as I said, this alien race, advanced technology and everything will be coming to Earth to eradicate all the superheroes or the metahumans that they feel are a threat, and will be invading Earth. The Dominators are a race that we have seen in the comic books. The invasion story was a big deal in I think it was the 1980s. In the comic books, Superman was heavily involved in that, but here we have them coming to the TV universe, and as I said, Supergirl will be heavily involved in that 3-part crossover that will be taking place, Flash, Arrow, and DC Legends of Tomorrow.
It looks like it could be pretty interesting. If you haven't seen it, they have a, I guess, superhero fight club thing where you see them all kind of fighting against these drones. I'm not really sure, unless they somehow depower Kara and make her more on the level of White Canary, where White Canary's in the same scene fighting these things off with a stick, and Supergirl, who has super speed, superpowers, lasers that shoot out of her eyes, but cold breath, should be able to take them all out without a woman with a stick's help. But she's there fighting one while Black Canary or White Canary fights a couple, and Arrow's there, fighting a couple, and the Flash is there, who has super speed and could run around and just get rid of them all. It's kind of interesting to think about how the logistics of that are going to work, and that's also, incidentally, the reason why a lot of fans of comic books, but not so much of Superman, have a problem, and that is they say, once you put Superman into any situation, how can it be dire? How can there be a problem that both Superman and Batman can handle where not only Superman is enough? And so I think you have to come up with more creative ways to make it fit. And I don't know if putting her in a room with a girl with a stick and saying they both have the same ability level makes sense.
No, we don't know what her role will be in this crossover, and how that will, as you say, that whole dilemma of her abilities. I guess because they have an alien race coming to destroy them, they need an alien of their own to help out, and so that's why she'll be heavily involved. And I guess the abilities or non-abilities of those other characters to be involved and help in any capacity will have to be pretty creative writing to fit them in and have their involvement in whatever capacity they can be helpful in such a
which is situation. Of course why it's only a 3-part crossover, and people were saying that they were disappointed that she's not now in the Flarrow universe, as you say, because I guess then it would be the Flarrow girl or Flarrow, Super Flarrow. I don't know what it would be if all 3 of them were in the same. Because then you got to add Legends. So because then every episode you have to figure out why Tyler Hoechlin isn't there helping the Flash, and why Supergirl isn't there every time nuclear missiles are threatening to destroy Star City. It is, and I've had this problem with comic books because and I know Superman is busy, and I know they're each in their own town and they have important things to do like fight clowns, but when the whole world is coming to an end and all of the United States nuclear missiles are being launched on one location in Star City, it seems to me that all the heroes would be there to stop an event like that. So that's why it becomes a problem, and it's a lot harder to swallow that somehow Batman couldn't get there in time before the Joker killed Robin, but no other super fast hero could get there either. And that's what you run into when you have a cohesive collective universe where everybody's supposedly on the same deal. And so I think that's why we have the universes staying separate. But they will have a crossover from time to time, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and that'll happen in November, that episode, or those 3 episodes, so we're looking forward to that. Now, that's all we have for the Supergirl TV series, so the only other TV series that we know of that's coming is this Krypton TV pilot, and there's been a lot more casting for the roles within that pilot episode. Deadline reported that little-known actor Cameron Cuff has been cast in the lead role Sedgell. So we're looking forward to seeing the photo that I saw of him. He looks like a member of the L family. So being the grandfather, I guess, of KAL, Sedgell will need to look somewhat like what you imagine Jor-El and KAL to look like, to be a member of the family. So we're looking forward to seeing Cameron Cuff in that particular role. We also have some other casting, but what do you think of Cuff, looking at him?
Well, again, as you say, he does look like he fits the part. I thought Tyler Hoechlin did when they first showed pictures of him, and so having seen Hoechlin now and seeing the version that they're doing, I think he fits what they're looking for, and I think that along the same line, Cuff seems to be in line with that as well.
Yeah, and we have the other character roles: Val-El, Darren Vex, Primus, Allura Zod, Kem, Nisa Vex, and Dev M were all cast as well. They all seem to be mostly British actors, which is interesting, an interesting choice. I guess it adds to that whole Kryptonian thing where they just have different accents, not necessarily American accents.
Possibly. I know it does seem to be all the rage. I mean, Henry Cavill, British, but doesn't speak with the British affect. He uses an American accent there, and shows
Man
like
of
The
Steel,
Walking Dead.
You had Russell Crowe as Jor-El speaking in an Australian accent in Man of Steel.
Yeah, and as I was saying, with The Walking Dead, they're all supposed to be in southern Georgia and in Atlanta, and they all have these hickified voices, but when you hear them on interviews, they're all British. Like half the cast are British.
Wow,
so it does seem to be, and it happens in movies other than Henry Cavill. I can't think of one right now, but just bringing up Russell Crowe, he played Robin Hood.
Well, you've got what's his name playing Wolverine, another Australian actor, Heath Ledger was Australian playing the Joker. You had
there's an Andrew Garfield, also British.
Spider-Man, yeah.
So it happens. It does seem to happen a lot.
Hugh
I don't
Jackman.
know if it's because of the Shakespearean training. I don't know if it's because they really do feel like they're better actors, or that just seems to be where the crop is coming from these days. But they do seem to go that way a lot. So they could do the Krypton thing with the different accents on Krypton, which, like you said in a previous show, why wouldn't they have? We're on a planet, and lots of different people have lots of different colors and accents and everything else. So why would Krypton be all British people in a chamber telling Jor-El that he's crazy? It should be all kinds of different people. But so they could speak their native accent, or they could come in and do different accents, and I think that'll make it all the more interesting. What I'm more concerned about is that it's going to be on Sci-Fi if it gets picked up at all.
Yeah, well, we know that the pilot's been picked up, but we need to see if the series gets picked up in total, so wait and see. But that's where things are at with the TV shows on at the moment and coming up in the near future, so keep an eye out for more news in the coming weeks and more Supergirl episodes in the coming weeks. All right, let's move into comic book discussions, and we've had a couple of issues of Action Comics be released since we last spoke, and we have Action Comics 964 and Action Comics 965. In 965, which I guess is 64 kind of leads into 965, and that's the Lois Lane back at the planet story. 965, we see Lois, the pre-Flashpoint Lois, heading to the Daily Planet, and everyone there, she's worried about what will happen, because the Lois Lane of this universe, of this current universe, the New 52 Lois, if you like, has been missing. We know that she died as Superwoman, but nobody else knows that, other than, obviously, Lana Lang. But Lois goes to the Daily Planet. She's got a different haircut. She looks a little bit older, but everyone just takes her as being Lois. And where have you been? It's great to see you back. You've been missing for a couple of weeks. What's going on? And I guess that makes sense, because nobody knows it there. I mean, if Scotty V walked into the room and his haircut was different and he looked a bit older, I wouldn't imagine that he was a different Scotty V. I would just imagine that you're a bit tired maybe, and you've had your hair cut. I wouldn't imagine that you're somebody other than who you are. So
now, you might think that if you were part of the DC universe, because all of these characters have seen all kinds of crazy things happen. But
and things. But
certainly in the real world, you'd never go,
No.
"Oh, you're an imposter from an alternate universe."
Exactly. So she, goes in there and she's taken as being the Lois Lane, and she's looking into Lois's, personal effects, because she's had this dream where Lois has asked, like, where she feels like Lois Lane is asking for her help, so she needs to go in and investigate and find out what's going on. And as she enters Lois's, there's nothing at the Daily Planet, so she goes to Lois's apartment and finds herself confronted by Superwoman, aka Lana Lang. And Lana says, "I've been waiting, to see who would find out or chase up, where Lois is, and is worried that this Lois is trying to replace the other Lois." So we're hanging to see where Action 966 leads us, but I'm really impressed with this focus on Lois Lane at this point in time.
Well, this makes a lot more sense than the Superman thing that I've brought up in other episodes, and that is that Batman and Wonder Woman and the other heroes just accept that he's Superman now, and the whole story about the other Superman seems to have been forgotten, and no one cares, and Wonder Woman loved him, and it was her great love, but it doesn't matter anymore, and she's not even upset about it. But here we have at least one character, because she's the only one who knows, I guess, is kind of annoyed or concerned that this imposter Lois is trying to usurp the place of her friend. And so I like that, and I think that makes sense in a situation where someone has been replaced and there are people who know that. Especially by someone that you're unsure where they came from, who they really are, or what the deal is with them.
Yeah, no, so enjoying the focus on Lois Lane, and looking forward to seeing how that continues and what happens there, because it's an interesting thing with this. We're all worried, or all been wondering how two Lois Lanes are going to fit. We knew that Superman had died, but now that we know Lois has also seemed to have perished, or has she? We wait and see what Lois Lane from pre-Flashpoint will discover about this Lois Lane's life and death. So looking forward to Action Comics 966, as I said, and Michael Bailey is reviewing those for us, so keep an eye on the Superman homepage for those reviews. Then in Superman number 8 and Superman number 9, we have Superman and his son Jonathan headed, or actually not headed, they've mysteriously been transported to this dinosaur island, where they're coming across all kind of manner of dinosaurs and creatures and other things, but they also come across a soldier from the World War II era, and I'm just kind of quickly looking up his name. They come across Captain Storm, and he first thinks that they're trying to... they invade his cave where he's been staying and stuff like that. So there's a bit of a confrontation at first, but then he tells them the story of him and his other crew members who were lost on this dinosaur island in the 1940s, and have been others have perished, but he's since been able to stay alive and fight on and live on. And he obviously realizes that time has passed excessively outside in the real world, where obviously with Superman and John and the way they look, he wants to know, did the Allies win? Did they beat the Nazis and all that kind of stuff? But there's a massive, this whole fight with the creatures and things, and Jonathan's trying to get back this device that he created or that he imagined into life that will be able to transport them back to the real world. And it's a bit of it was a tribute to Darwin Cook, and I think that was fantastic. And they've, at the end of this, Superman and Jonathan get back into the real world. Unfortunately, Captain Storm isn't able to cross back with them, but this adventure is really there's a mystery there that Clark and Jonathan need to discover, and it was a great kind of side adventure that father and son could have that I was really keen on reading.
Does it look to you that this Superman book is going to be always Superman and son, that we're not really going to have a book that focuses on Superman without these adventures with another superpowered individual?
No, I don't think so. I think we're kind of hanging in the balance until we get the Super Sons comic book, which has been delayed, which will have this young Jonathan teaming up with, I think it's Damian Wayne from Batman books. We'll get the whole Super Sons book coming out, but that's not happening for early next year, I believe. So we may get a few more months with Superman and Jonathan together until Jonathan is more established with his powers and things. But no, I don't see that necessarily being the long-term future of that book.
And what about the idea that someone posited to me the last week or so that this is John from the future who comes and destroys everything and kills everyone?
I hadn't even thought about that one. That's a new one for me. Yeah.
Because in that story and in that possible future, I guess it was Superman's son. His name was John, and he did have superpowers. And those horrible things happened. But I don't know that they're related, is what I told this person who mentioned it, because I think that was a separate kind of continuity that may or may not exist at this point.
No, interesting one. I hadn't thought of that, so I don't know. We'll have to. That's an interesting speculation there.
All right.
Well, we move on to Supergirl number 2, and this one, Supergirl's an interesting book because it seems to be taking a lot of not plot points, but ideas from the Supergirl TV series, and that it's cool on one hand, but also a bit derivative on the other hand, and can be a little bit confusing if you're a fan of the TV series, thinking, I'm going to check out the Supergirl comic book, and there's a lot of familiarity there with with Catco and with National City and DEO, but it's a different continuity, a different setup. It's a totally different world, really. But in this second issue, we get Zor-El, who we know is Supergirl's father from Krypton, but he's now the cyborg Superman, which we saw in the New 52 continuity. But here he is trying to once again re-establish himself with Carr, and that's just not happening for her. They're at odds with each other, as you'd expect. He's not the father she remembers, and so it's never going to work.
Well, and I said this when they first made it happen in the New 52, and now they've done away with that. But this is a point that they want to keep, and what I said then, and I'll say now, it doesn't. I don't really get why he would go with cyborg Superman. He doesn't even know Superman. He doesn't have any connection to Superman. He doesn't even know Supergirl. He doesn't know that symbol, the way they wear it. He doesn't know the red and blue. He doesn't know who they are or who they would be. Cyborg Superman had such a resonance in his initial appearances and in his continued appearances for the 90s and into the 2000s, because he was trying to be an imposter, and he was trying to make the world believe that he was Superman returned from the dead and that he had been damaged, and so he had to repair himself the only way he knew how. This version of Cyborg it's like, why wouldn't he be just Cyborg Zor-El or why is he Cyborg Superman?
Yeah.
It just makes no sense.
No, I agree with you. It doesn't really make any sense, and it's never really explained, so it is a bit of a weird one, and it still has potential there, but it's not necessarily grabbing me the way I thought the Supergirl comic book would. I was really glad to see a Supergirl comic book be re-established in the universe, and I guess we'll kind of a bit of a wait and see pattern there for the Supergirl comic book. But as far as Superwoman is concerned, and this kind of ties back in with the Action Comics book, we've got Lana Lang as Superwoman. Atomic Skull is on the loose, and her and Steel try to stop him. We've got Lena Luthor exacting vengeance on her brother Lex for making her a paraplegic. That's an interesting story there, the whole Lena-Lex thing. I'm really liking the way that's playing out. But, Lena's supposedly possessed or corrupted by a mother box, and Lana is trying to save the city with unknown damage done to herself. Lena becomes consumed by her mother box, becoming Ultra Woman. So things are really heating up there. But a lot of people are dissatisfied with the Superwoman book because they thought it was Lois Lane becoming Superwoman as was advertised. That was kind of a bit of like a red herring because they didn't want the whole Lois's death thing to be known or leaked or spoiled before it happened. But I think they've kind of done themselves a little bit of a disservice because it was promoted as being Lois Lane as Superwoman, but instead it's Lana Lang as Superwoman.
Yeah, in the way the story is played out, it's really the only thing. It makes the most sense. There is no Lana crossover,
No.
so Lana can be Superwoman and still be Lana in this universe.
Yeah.
Whereas there now would be two Loises, and then somehow we would have to justify there being two Loises, and it would have to be explained to the staff and to everybody else in much the same way that the Superman dilemma needed to be. And so it makes total sense in the story, but I, too, was disappointed upon reading the first one because Lois lasts, a very short amount of time.
Yep.
My guess is, and I'm thinking, this is speculation on my part, is that we're going to see sort of an amalgam of Lana and Lois, maybe even in one mind, a la Firestorm, something like that, where because the other Lois is getting these dreams from somewhere. Maybe Lois isn't really dead, and Lana needs her help finding her or finding out exactly what happened. And so I almost think that the red herring might end up being part of the overall story, and that is that Lois is Superwoman, but in the embodiment of Lana, and they both need to come together, as I say, like Firestorm. I don't know that that's what they're doing, but that's where I could see this story going. By ways of these ghostly dreams and voiceovers and mystery of where she is and what actually happened to her, and that it seems like they're hinting toward the idea that she didn't actually perish the way that it seemed like she did.
Interesting. So we'll have to see where Superwoman goes in future chapters. All right, well, that's all we have time for in far as all we have really listed to talk about for our topics. So let's move into the big question segment of our show.
Let's start with the big question.
Last month's big question was, which new character are you looking forward to seeing in Season 2 of Supergirl, and why? Billy Hogan wrote in, I'm looking forward to seeing Mon-El the most, because I'm hoping the Legion of Superheroes will appear on the show, as well as the return to the DC comic book universe. Maggie Sawyer and Miss Martian are the other two characters I'm looking forward to seeing on the show.
Well, thanks, Billy. Some good list of characters there. Gail Savage Jr. wrote in, he says, Mon-El for sure. I'm a huge Legion of Superheroes fan. If Mon-El comes to Earth, maybe Supergirl could follow him to his time and meet Brainiac 5. The fact that Supergirl had a relationship with Brainiac 5 in some Legion storylines would make a great storyline for the show. Maybe she could meet Booster Gold there too. Rock on.
Seems like a Legion of Superheroes is a running theme. Yeah. I personally... I'm torn for it. I mean, I love that cartoon when it was on. I read the Supergirl arc in the books when she did go to that timeline. And, of course, Superman himself was a part of the Legion of Superheroes when he was very young. My issue with it is that it's one of those time travel paradoxes. Superman inspired them to become the Legion of Superheroes, but without the Legion of Superheroes, once the Legion of Superheroes is introduced, then Superman wouldn't have learned to be a hero. So it's almost like they're saying that the Legion of Superheroes is what made Clark become a hero, as opposed to Martha and Jonathan, and the fact that he was from Krypton and he had this great tutelage from the Krypton archives and just had the feeling of what was right and what he needed to do. So I'm always torn on that idea, because I like the idea that Superman does what he does because he knows that's what he wants to do and that it's the right thing, as opposed to being interfered with by time travelers who take a snotty kid and teach him that he has to be Superman. So I, because of that reason, I'm not overall a fan of the Silver Age or a conceit of the Legion of Superheroes. But
fair enough.
Donovan Hunter wrote, he's looking forward to seeing Lena Luthor. I'm hoping she's going to be an amazing villain, just like her older brother.
Thank you, Donovan. Appreciate your input. Christopher Miron wrote in, hey guys, I think other than Superman, I'm most looking forward to Lynda Carter as the president. I always like to see that people from past comic-related projects are still involved in current TVs or movies. I think it also shows that the current show creators respect the history of the genre. By having Lynda Carter as an important character in the show, I think it acknowledges the fact that Wonder Woman paved the way for many other female superheroes, including Supergirl herself. Thanks. Thank you, Christopher.
Yes, indeed.
Nice
Pat. And then you'll probably have seen that by the time you hear this, yes. Lynda Carter having been on this week. Patrick O'Neill wrote, outside of Superman, the character I'm most looking forward to seeing is Mon-El. I felt he was a very interesting character in the comics, and I'm glad the show is diving deeper into the Superman mythology with characters like this. Thanks, guys. Keep up the good work.
Well, thank you, Patrick, and thank you for all your continued sponsorship and support. All right. Well, what is our new big question for this month, Scotty?
Our new big question is, what did you think of Tyler Hoechlin as Superman?
Yes, get involved with the Big Question segment of our show by clicking on the Big Question button found at the Superman homepage, Radio KAL page. You'll find that under the Favourites menu. And let us know what you think of Tyler Hoechlin as Superman. We'll read out the answers in next month's Big Question segment.
I'm laughing at you, you hear? Laughing!
Now it's time for the comedy sketch. I know you've been saying in past months, sometimes it's difficult to find these things, but that the fans demand it, so you painstakingly go about searching the world with your fedora and bullwhip to find what gems you can. And what did you come up with this time?
Well, I've got a stand-up comedian known as Ismo, thanks to the Laugh Factory on YouTube. He's got a little bit of a sketch here about the whole "it's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman" stick. So here he is, Ismo, his stand-up comedy about Superman.
But my favorite superhero has to be, like, there's so many superheroes now, all the new ones, but my favorite one has to be the first one, Superman. That was the first one. And I didn't see the new movie, but remember the first Superman movie ever. There was always this guy, when Superman came flying, there was this guy who always was like, is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it's Superman. So that always happened. The guy was like that. So I started to wonder, like, how often the same guy was like, is it a bird? Yeah. Yeah, it's a bird, yeah. And I think that had to happen, like, way more. Because if you calculate, it's like there's so many more birds than there are Supermen. So every 5 minutes the guy is like, oh, and it's quite weird. Like, how can the guy not even distinguish between a bird and a plane? Like, I've never made that mistake, I think. Like, is it a bird? Is it like, concentrate a little bit, please. Just, they look very different. Is it a kite? Is it a helicopter? Well, how bad is your eyesight? I hope that guy never goes hunting. Like, is it a bird? No, it's my dog. Don't.
Well, there you have it. Thanks to Ismo and thanks to Laugh Factory for that funny thing. I love his accent.
Yeah. It's funny. All these things that are, they're kind of legendary parts of the mythology, even on Supergirl last week where they had the up and away thing. A little goofy, but also you remember it from cartoons and it's the thing you grew up with.
That makes you smile.
It was something Superman always said. And so it's nice to see. And of course, being such a huge part of the culture, it's embedded in people's minds.
Yeah.
So somebody like Ismo even does it, Jerry Seinfeld, these other comedians, it's a big deal,
Exactly.
So here we go with the super secret soundbite.
Only one thing alive with less than 4 legs can hear this frequency, Superman, and that's you.
Well, last month's sound came from the movie Superman 3, the part where Superman is drunk. So let's hear that sound again.
I'll tell you, nobody's ever going to trust that creep again.
Well, that was a sound, and we had 6 people guess it right. Who were they, Scotty?
They were Fred Walsh, David Huang, Maury Hilder, David Barantz, Donovan Hunter, and Patrick O'Neill. And I think there's a few names in there I have not read before.
Yeah, so it's really cool. Congratulations to those 6 people for guessing it right. Let's see if they and more people can guess where in the world of Superman this new super secret soundbite comes from.
Never underestimate the need for a good obituary.
Well, if you think you know where that sound comes from, then use the super secret soundbite entry form found at the Radio KAL webpage to send your entry in. Each person who guesses it right will have their name read out here on Radio KAL.
Spoiler alert, that is, of course, from the sci-fi pilot that has been picked up, Krypton.
All right, time for our Superman song. What do we have this month, Scotty?
Well, strangely enough, the song is Superman, and it's by Monty Montgomery from his 2005 album, Architect.
Streets run to their cars. They drive like mad. You get nailed by. Better run for your life. This could be the end. We need you now. Where are you, Superman? A sinister fool with an evil plan says he's gonna break this Kryptonian. Battle over the skies will put him to the test. Superman got to win to save the universe. People look to the skies for the man of steel. You can make the impossible real. He's the only one I know who can save us this high. Save us this high. In the fortress of solitude, he hears the calls from me and you. 3 seconds left to Metropolis. The city's in flames. How did it come to this? A blasted by his breath, the fire is dead. One mighty blow to the villain's head. The battle is short and to the strong. Superman stands alone. To the sky for the man of steel. We can make the impossible real. He's the only one I know who can save us this time. Save us this time.
have it. That was the song, and that is our show for another month. A nice long one this month. So thank you to you, Scotty, for your participation in this show and for suggesting the whole video thing that we did at the beginning of this show. Hopefully it's a thing that we'll continue to do, or it will grow as an idea. But for the listeners out there, look, we're happy to hear your suggestions on this show, what you'd like us to see and do with this show, whether there's a topic you think we need to discuss, a big question you'd like us to ask the fans, a song you'd like to request, or a comedy sketch that you've seen. Anything along those lines you can want to participate in suggestions for the show, then you can do that by using the KAL feedback form found at the Superman homepage website, or you can send us an email. My email address is steve@supermanhomepage.com. You can email Scotty. His email address is scotty@supermanhomepage.com, and we'll be happy to hear your ideas. Thank you, Scotty.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks, everybody, for watching. And if you didn't see the little video portion of the beginning of this episode, check it out. I'm sure we'll have it uploaded maybe on the site even, and to Facebook, to Twitter. Check it out and let us know what you think of that and maybe what we can do to improve that or come up with other ideas. But for now, remember, always look up in the sky.
You've been listening to Radio KAL, brought to you by SupermanHomepage.com and our proud sponsor, Patrick O'Neill.